And this is where I think things get the most interesting, especially when you're talking about a business that retails both on Amazon and through direct to consumer. The entire unit economic discussion we just had almost goes out the window in certain categories on Amazon because of how expensive the PPC system is right now, right? Like, I'll give you an example, right? Like dog supplements is an example of a category where everything we just spoke about, you could have a 90th percentile gross margin, right? You could be selling the product for 90 bucks and manufacturing it for $5. It's a pretty small item, so the Amazon storage fees aren't much, or the Shopify 3PL fees aren't a ton. It's a reasonably straightforward product. So you could be walking out the door with a contribution margin north of 50%, and you're still going to struggle to be profitable in that space because the average cost per click on Amazon is north of $5 or $6 right now.
Yeah.
And this is where things I think are fascinating, because this is where Amazon and Shopify businesses show. Most Shopify businesses, Facebook, and to a lesser extent, Instagram is the outsourced growth engine. Facebook and Instagram prices, there's a sort of derived CPC, but they're generally priced on a CPM. And it's generally based on the audience you're trying to reach and basically how niche that audience is to acquire. Amazon PPCs are derived from an equally kind of opaque black box, but it tends to loosely be a function of how many sellers are really aggressively bidding in this ecosystem. And to be even more specific, it tends to be a function of how many large brands with almost unlimited budgets are bidding in this ecosystem and how many Chinese private label sellers are bidding in this ecosystem. And it's if it's very crowded, the PPCs are gnarly. If it's reasonably kind of, less kind of competition intensive, you may still see sub-quota categories on Amazon where, the trailing CPCs are less than $1. So that level of variance, to some degree, kind of throws our whole unit economics conversation into whack. Because you can do everything right from a unit economic perspective up to the contribution margin line. And if you're in certain categories, it's going to be very hard to scale a net new brand on Amazon. Or you can make a bunch of mistakes, but if you launch in the right category at the right time, there's going to be a ton of forgiveness, right? Like if you look at Amazon's search query performance dashboard and you find just the right trend that is like number 500,000 this month, but is going to be number 300,000 next month, and there's a $75 or 75-cent cost per click on Amazon, you might get away with making a bunch of mistakes on the pricing and landed costs and everything side. Whereas if you do everything right from a unit economic perspective, you find the cheapest supplier, you price at the high end of the market, and you still see some organic sales, but you enter in a category where the CPCs are incredibly high, you may have a sort of very, very difficult time. That's why, not to kind of extend this answer too much, that's why I think the Facebook Buy with Prime integration is so interesting, because with Facebook's new Buy with Prime integration on Amazon, sellers who have outstanding unit economics but are in a highly challenging Amazon advertising ecosystem can still find profitable growth by advertising off Amazon and fulfilling with FBA, versus trying to grow exclusively via Amazon. So I think the world is changing a little bit, right? Like sheer Amazon PPC arbitrage is harder than ever, but if you know how to use multiple channels kind of in tandem, there's still some opportunity.
Well, okay, so you are advocating selling through your website rather than on Amazon.
Not necessarily. I am advocating having even if you're a very small Amazon operation, having a minimum viable website, right? A minimum viable direct consumer experience that's hosted through Shopify, so that when a consumer Googles your brand, at least you have a storefront. But if you play in a category where Amazon PPC is very expensive, but you otherwise have strong unit economics across the business, potentially running more off-site campaigns to Amazon, which can be done a lot easier now that Facebook integrates with Buy with Prime. And this is where I think, you know, a lot of sellers have to get more nimble, right? If the PPCs in your category 1 month are $1.50 to $2, and you have a reasonably, you know, sort of low contribution margin and not that much room to be profitable, maybe there's going to be more arbitrage opportunity on Facebook or through running affiliate campaigns. If the next week the CPCs in your category drop to 95 cents or $1 or $1.10, you can start to scale up spend on Amazon. But the smartest folks that I've seen in the space are companies that have that astute understanding of the P&L down to contribution margin, but then are constantly watching the variance in price between Amazon PPC and the going rate on Facebook and Instagram, and very swiftly kind of moving budgets back and forth to support, which, you know, wherever there's the most growth.